This episode is brought to you by Tabletop Dominion. If the antics of the circus have given you the desire to roll some dice of your own, head to tabletopdominion.com and use the code DESIRE10. We fought, we brawled, we beat them all, and now there is a doorway. Our plan, our aim, was it in vain? Too late, perhaps before they spoke the hidden word. Whose there were they heard? Could this be the ending? Spells cast by the foe, Dekvar, now we know. What is he defending? Greg came in with a fireball. He never saw the room at all. A flaming torrent in a space so small. He never noticed there were children in there. There were children in there. Greg didn't ask how big the room was. He said, I'd cast fireball. Dekvar didn't stand a chance, if only that was all. A dwarven boy engulfed by fire. All of this for naught in dice and desire. Just grab everything, dab off. Let's get it all out of there, and then go and see what I imagine they've just been standing around, not getting up to any trouble whatsoever.
Yeah, let's go be heroes. Yeah, let's carry on this heroic, noble quest to save these children. God, I hope they're all right. Both of them.
Krill sort of. Where's Quinch at this point?
I stood next to you, I think.
Okay.
The strangest
Krill
thing
steps
happened.
into the room and goes, "Oh,
don't you want to?
Oh no."
I was talking to you.
Sorry. Carry on.
I was saying I was paralysed. I couldn't move or talk. It was torturous. It was 6 seconds or so.
I'll be honest, I hadn't noticed.
That's fair enough.
I like the idea that it's probably a little bit like when you go to the dentist and you have like the injection in your gum, like your body starts to tingle and you can't like walk properly. Like...
Yeah.
I've always been able to walk properly after the dentist.
Good stuff. Well,
so I stepped into the room. Oh no, Greg, that child is smoking.
Is the child smoking?
No, the child isn't smoking. But
not like cigarettes. Like it's like they've been singed. Like little wisps of smoke coming off of.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, Greg's going to turn around to you and go, "Oh no, there's children outside. They've all got slashes in them."
I was going to say, well, let's blame the hobgoblin. But no, it was definitely you that killed this.
Well, hang on. Quinch steps into the room. Oh, fucking hell. And he quickly just huddles to the side of the other two so that the other child can't hear. Was that us?
I believe it was Greg.
First off, should we not go and see if she's all right?
Well, I was thinking we'd better get our story straight, but yes, you're right. We might need to take care of the other one.
It's horrifically ironic that us three are the ones left with the child.
Little one, are you okay?
Are you Alba by any chance? I'm coming over, darling. Coming. Greg's gonna swan on over there, and he's gonna just, I guess, unbound her. I guess she's gagged and bound.
Yeah. So you pull away the gag, and she's, oh, thank you for saving us.
That's quite all right. Are you Alma to start with? Is that your name?
Yes, I'm Alma. How do you know my name?
Your mother Sinclair sent us. We're here to save you.
Sinclair.
I think that was her name, wasn't it? Oh, no, Serene. Serene was her name, wasn't it?
How's my father, Commodore? How are they? Oh, I can't believe they must be so distraught that I've been missing. I just want to go home.
Who's the young boy next to you here?
I don't know. I recognise him from Tribor. He was. I never spoke to him, but I remember seeing him around town on the streets. Oh my God, I'd be dead if it wasn't for him.
How did he die?
He's been. He's been protecting me. We've been in here for so long with that creature. We've been locked in here. And he's been fending him off. I think he's been trying to eat us or something. I don't know what's been going on. But this boy here, he's been saving me and he's been giving me all the water. That's why I'm sat here. And as you see this, you notice that there's water coming down the side of not like a waterfall or anything like that, but there's a fairly sort of consistent or constant trickle of water. He moved and he let me sit here and he's been letting me have the water and he's not been taking any. I think he'd been dead for a day or so.
Oh.
Yes, that's what I thought as well. I was just making sure we had our story straight and that there was no possible way that we could have saved the child. Which obviously I knew before I threw that fireball in this room.
I don't know what to say. I just want to go.
Well, let's get you out of here then. And Greg's gonna pop her on the back of Smog and use that to carry her.
Just checking, Alma. Would you be more comfortable in my arms and I'll fly us out of here? Or would you rather be on the broom, whichever one you'd be more comfortable with? Because I appreciate you must have been through quite a trauma.
And for the first time, really, she actually notices you and Krill in the room.
Has she got dark vision?
That's a good point, actually. She probably wouldn't know. She probably wouldn't see that. Good point. Although Greg has got his torch, so she'd be able to see him.
She just heard this creepy voice coming from the darkness. Do you want me to carry you?
Actually, to be fair, Quinch.
I mean, she would see him. 20 foot with my light.
Quinch has got a torch, so yeah, she probably would.
Yeah,
see
I've got
him.
a torch as well. Yeah.
And she suddenly really notices you for the first time, and she sees this large half-orc carrying this blood-soaked axe. She sees this large dragonborn, and then she sort of sees at the foot of Krill. Essentially, she sees the body of Dekvar, and she essentially puts 2 and 2 and 2 together, and sort of just sees 3 big scary monsters, albeit one of them dead. And you can see that she shirks away, she's, don't let them get me, she says to Greg.
Bit racist.
So she's a little bit scared of the pair of you, which is ironic considering you're not the one that threw a fireball into the room.
No, but Greg also didn't just murder 50 children, so definitely safer.
Yeah.
Greg's going to give her some rations out of his bag to start with, food and drink.
She takes them and she just absolutely just chows down, she just throws them down her neck, she's barely even chewing them. This girl, she's probably been gone about a week at this point. If I remember correctly, when you first came to Tribal and you spoke to the family, it'd been a couple of days, few days.
Yeah, 3 days, I think it was.
Yeah, and it's taken you 2, 3, 4 days to get to here. So she's probably been missing for about a week.
Quinch slowly approaches her and says, you don't need to be scared of me. Look, and I've got a blue ribbon. I'm going to tie this around her arm. This is a blue ribbon of protection. It will protect you from anything else bad happening to you. And he also passes her the cube of many colours and says, we'll get you out of here, but you might want to play with this for a bit to distract yourself.
Can you roll me a charisma roll, please? Not a saving throw, just a straight charisma.
Straight charisma is 12.
She's tentative. As you go to reach around to do the ribbon and stuff, you can see her burying herself almost into Greg, away from you. But you try and sort of ease it, and she sort of eventually lets maybe Greg gives a bit of reassurance that it's okay, and she lets you do it, and you can see that giving her the because it's worth remembering Elma's probably about 13 years old. She's still relatively young. And so, with the bit of tenderness and the gift that sort of helps her, just calms her down a little bit. She's still obviously distraught, and she's still chowing away at these rations that Greg's given her.
Just to be clear, you can keep the ribbon, but I will need the cube back when we're outside. But you can worry about that later. I'm sorry, I don't want to stress you.
Just to make it clear, I've while these guys have been talking to the child, I'm just rooting through Deckfire's pockets.
No. You heard me saying I'm going to search, and you're like, I'm getting to that body first.
I'm going to give Greg the benefit of the doubt, because I think Greg was probably going to do that first. So sorry, Sam.
He's on the other side of the room having a conversation. I've just stood there, watched him fly over to me, push me aside, and then start rooting through. That wouldn't have happened. I've been itching to do it for ages. I let this little conversation play out where seemingly it's fine for Quinch to comfort children, but Krill does it and he's a nonce. No, I let him have his conversation.
Okay.
Remember, Greg, that even when he's raging, he's not resistant to psychic damage.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Speaking of damage, sorry, I'm just going to roll a d20, and I've got a 2, so that's pretty good. Wild magic.
Oh, yeah.
It's it reset anyway. So
I was going to say you're one of them anyway, so that's back up to 2. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll let you both search the body. What about that?
No, fuck him. He can search the body. I'm searching the altar and the child, then.
Which one?
Okay. All right, then, fine. Krill, as you're searching Dekvar's belongings, you find a particularly fancy-looking rapier.
Oh.
You find a wand, a fairly ordinary-looking wand, but a wand nonetheless. You find, because of course you'd find this, 300 gold pieces.
Just quickly, what came after the rapier? Sorry, I was busy adding it to my inventory.
A wand.
Love it. Just a standard wand.
Just a normal wand.
Just an innocent wand.
Nothing unfanciful.
Okay.
It's actually just a stick.
How much gold was there, sir?
You actually tell a lie. You find no, that's a lie. You find a wand, a relatively normal looking wand, right? It doesn't stand out particularly. You can do an Arcana check on it if you want. To me, to Krill, it's just a twig. So what he does is he just picks it up, and it's over the shoulder. It's just a twig in someone's pocket. Fine. I mean, okay, cool.
Back to that gold.
Yeah, fine. 300 gold pieces. Okay.
Yeah.
Quinch picks up the wand.
Quinch. Okay. Are you going to do an Arcana check, or are you just going to take it, or are you going to do something with it? What are you going to do?
Me with the wand?
Yeah. What are you doing with the wand?
Oh, I'll see what it is at least. I'll pick it up and have a look at it. Plus, I guess I'll
okay.
Inspect it.
Okay. We'll hold fire on that for the time being. Yes, that's all you find on the body. Greg, did you say you were searching the altar?
Yeah, I can only imagine I'm going to find some kind of great axe just sitting on it or something like that.
And just go, oh, it's just a chopping implement, and throw it over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Lobs my arm off.
Just cuts the other child's head off.
You look around the altar. The first thing you pay attention to is this bit of wood that's sticking out the top of the altar itself. This plinth, and you notice that it's quite short, and it appears to be at the top broken. Like, imagine someone's taken a twig and literally broken it in half. You can sort of see where, like, although it's a slightly charred from the fireball that you threw into the room, you can still, even with that, you can tell that this is not a complete thing.
Okay.
But also, just on this side, essentially, of the plinth, luckily enough, you see, again, singed, but luckily enough, probably protected by the plinth from the fire. You see a pile of books. Flicking through the books, the majority of them are books on necromancy, or as I heard today, necromancy.
Who the hell said necromancy?
It was on a podcast, and I was like, "What the?" Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and you flick through them, and you notice they're written in infernal. There's another book though there, a slightly odd-looking book.
It's for the love of dogs.
From the outside, you would guess that this was a journal, but as you open it, you notice that actually there's only a few pages in here. Quite a lot of the pages have been ripped out. There's only like maybe 3-4 pages, if not, about that left in the book, and what appears to be a big, long, scrawled stream of conscious thoughts. On the inside of the book, in the cover, is also a very small piece of writing. What would you like to look at first? What would you like to read through first? Would you like to read through any of it? Would you like to just stow that book and come back to it?
I think the handwritten book. I'll put the rest of them in my bag, and I'll also pick up the broken twig thing and put that in my bag. But the notebook...
So you go to... So it's worth noting, so the broken twig thing, as you go to take it, you realise that it is in the stone. It's literally... It's sticking out of the stone itself. It's buried into it. So you try and pull it, nothing happens.
Okay. I'll come back to that one then. But I do want to read the handwritten book with the notes poking out of it, I think.
Do you want to read the book or the thing that's written in the inside of the book? So the pages or what's written in the
I'm going to read the slip
cover
first, or the cut, or
the
whatever.
cover.
What's
Written in the cover? Okay. It's literally 5 lines, and you see written in it, "There once was a half-elven bard, whose face was unusually scarred. He knocked back a scotch as he stood there to watch." And then the last line is written in a completely different language.
I mean, I'm going to read it. Doesn't
What
matter what language it is.
What languages can you read?
Well, I will just use my first level spell to do comprehend language. For the duration, I understand the literal meaning of any spoken language that you hear. You also understand any written language that you see, but you must be touching the surface of the words that are written. Okay.
I've just sent you on WhatsApp the last line.
Oh.
As you touch it, you first of all you understand that this is the language that this is written in is Sylvan, and then you see the words that I've sent you, and it's entirely up to you what you want to do with that.
Can I read it out loud, please?
The entire thing?
Yeah. So
okay, let me send you the rest of it.
I think I would just be reading the book as it's written down. So what you've just said.
Okay, if you're reading it out loud, yeah.
And if I'm kind of comprehending all languages, I'd already move on to like the last line and just read it out in common, because I guess that's what
I've sent you the full part of it.
There once was a half-elf bard whose face was unusually scarred. He knocked back his scotch. He stood there and watched. His known friend became mortally charged.
Mortally charred.
Oh.
That sounds familiar.
Sounds very ominous.
Where's Dweezil and Daboff at this point? Have they made their way there yet?
I imagine we'd be walking back. It depends how long it
So,
takes to get back, I suppose.
So this sounds like it's talking about Dweezil and Dabov, except that Dweezil isn't scarred and Dabov hasn't burned to death.
Dweezil is
Dweezil is
scarred. He's
scarred.
got the very...
Like a birthmark round his eye.
Oh, right. Yes, obviously, having been with him for so long, I recognised that. Thought it was just makeup. But Dabov is certainly, unless he's burned to death in the last few minutes, Dabov is not mortally charred, right?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while, to be fair.
Oh my god, is Dabov burned to death?
I'm glad someone finally showed some fucking concern. Christ.
The recipe for nuggies will be lost to time.
Sorry, just this central stone, is it just a solid block of stone, or is it like a plinth where like the lid could be pushed off?
A solid block of stone.
Could I also look in the book then? That's obviously written in the cover to get some kind of context to what that's on about.
Okay, so roll me a perception, please.
That is a 19.
Now that you're looking at the book in a bit more detail, maybe that reading that bit has sort of sobered you up somewhat. First thing you notice is that the pages that have been written in some sort of ink. The writing on the cover, the poem that you've just read, has been written in something else. You can't really tell, but it's sort of red. So you might be able to guess that maybe it was blood or something else, but certainly different. The other thing you notice is different handwriting, completely different handwriting, completely different.
Okay.
Like not even close. It's literally just two completely different people have written these two things. As you start looking a bit more, looking more into the pages and the writing on there, you realise that this is essentially the first thing you notice. The first line it reads. My name is Dekvar Nevermike, and this is my confession. Would you like me to read his confession?
I would love you to read his confession. Is it his love for children?
Buckle up, boys. My name is Dekvar Nevermike, and this is my confession. As I lay here in a prison of my own making, I am left to reflect on the choices that led me here. I do not expect forgiveness or understanding, merely that you hear my tale. I was a cleric in an army. You do not need to know which one. It is unimportant, and for the safety of my colleagues, I will not tell you who. I was good, no, great at what I did. But soon we came up against a battle we could not win, and the bodies started mounting up. I was unable to keep them alive. Rather than look at their own tactical mistakes, the elders blamed me for the deaths, and I was replaced by a student who had only been learning his craft for a few months. Embarrassed and disrespected, I started looking at ways to win back their favour, and during some research found the answer. Or so I thought. Centuries ago, a wizard named Bernie Crust, yes, an amusing name, invented a wand which had healing properties. Not only could it heal the sick and injured, but it could even bring the dead back to life. Knowing that an item like this could turn the tide for us, I sought it out, and my journey led me to the Desserin Hills. I eventually tracked the wand to a cave, hidden behind a door which was locked with a password you now know. The wand sat in the middle of the room, suffused to a rock. It was only later that I discovered Crust had melded the wand directly to the rock with an unbreakable spell to stop anyone taking it from this cave. He was scared that in the wrong hands, the wand would be too dangerous. Rather than destroy a thing of beauty, he decided hiding it would be safe enough. I needed to test the wand on a subject. I went back out into the hills and lured an ogre into the cave. I initially hid, but when his back was turned, I leapt out at him, striking him with what turned out to be a mortal blow. I'd only intended to injure him, but somehow had killed him instead. As a medic, this action was against my oath, and I felt terrible, until I realized I could save him. After much pushing and shoving, I got the ogre to the wand, and using said item, was able to rouse him from his eternal sleep. He was angry, of course, and did not wish to listen, and so I made a hasty escape. I returned the next day, hoping to remove the item that my colleagues would dearly love to see, and although the ogre had disappeared, he had not done so before breaking the wand. I was unsure whether it would still work, but I knew I needed to try. For my second patient, I decided I'd try something different. The Desserin Hills are filled with giants, manticores, and other deadly beasts. I couldn't wander for too long without getting into big danger. Instead, I set off for Yatar. I soon discovered the streets of Yatar were paved with down-and-outs, and I lied to one about giving him shelter and food. When he noticed we were heading for the hills, he outright refused to go any further and turned to leave. We were still in the open and too close to civilization for me to do anything, so I let him return to the city. I left it a few hours and went back with a new plan. If an adult would refuse, why not try a child? Yes, it's less moral to do so, but if all went well, they would be unharmed. They're also less likely to be educated about the hills and more likely to be led by their emotions or stomachs. And so I found a young gnome girl who wished to come with me. Her name was Fantan. I will never forget her name. She followed me all the way to the cave with no resistance. When we got to the cave, she realized I had duped her, and I explained what I was trying to do, promising her, this time truthfully, that I would give her a home and food if she could let me experiment. She cautiously agreed and allowed me to cut her hand so that I might heal it with the wand. I made a small incision, nothing too major, and tried to heal her with the wand. Nothing. It didn't work at all. Neither from range or from touch. We tried for hours with different methods. We tried different injuries to see if that mattered, but nothing worked. I was starting to get frustrated, and when Fantan tried to console me, presumably still hoping I would feed her, I struck her in a rage. I struck her again, and again. I didn't stop. For the second time this week, I had killed a living creature. When I finally calmed down, I was distraught. I was taught to save lives, not take them. I crawled over to her body and brushed her hair from her face, but as my hand touched her brow, her eyes opened. A miracle! I realized I was still holding the wand. I put two and two together and realized that not all of the magic had left the wand. I leapt up, jumping for joy and asking Fantan to forgive me, but when I looked down, she was limp again. Realizing I was no longer touching her, I leant down and grabbed her, but this time there was no reaction. It seems that whatever had worked first time wouldn't work again. Over the next few days, I would take more children from Yatar and continue my experiments. While I never enjoyed the process of repurposing the children, my conscience was sated in the knowledge that this was all for the greater good and would save even more lives in the future. I found out that while the wand was broken, it was unable to heal, but was able to reanimate the dead. Not revive. Reanimate. They could perform simple tasks for a short period of time, but only while I was touching them and the wand was on my person. Realizing that if I continued like this, I'd soon risk suspicion in Yatar, I decided to speak to the Water Baron. What an arrogant nitwit she was. She was so concerned with cleaning up the streets of Yatar for her election, she didn't even ask what I would be doing with the children. And so I brought more and more kids to the cave to find out what the wand could do. I eventually tried using mending on the wand, reattaching it to the half still stuck in the stone. It was still not the legendary item I'd come in search of, but it did seem to be more powerful as one piece. Any reanimated corpse lasted longer, indefinitely as far as I could tell, and without the need to still be in contact with them, but they were less cooperative. Also, over time, I noticed they continued decomposing despite being alive. That said, the more I made, the more hardy they seemed. With enough time, I was sure I could bring them back to life, unharmed. The problem was I was running out of subjects. My last from Yatar was a feisty satyr girl. As she could be my last, I took my time and didn't kill her straight away. I needed to look further afield. I decided to try Tribor. They didn't have the same amount of homeless that Yatar did, only one as far as I could tell, and so I needed to change tactic. The homeless dwarf boy didn't need feeding. It seemed he was well fed, oddly, but he seemed more interested in magic, and so I said I could teach him some things back in my cave. It took several attempts to convince him, but he was an angry boy, and I used this to my advantage. Eventually he saw the benefit of having power to change his circumstances, and came with me. But there were still only 2 children. I couldn't go too far in case they died, and I couldn't save them. I returned to Tribor, and although I didn't find any vagrants, I did find a young girl who was mesmerized by my magic. I returned her home at night and lured her outside. She came with me without any questions. It was almost too easy. When I returned to the cave, I decided it was time to return to my experiments and grabbed the satyr. I placed her on the plinth, as I'd done numerous times, but something went wrong. She wasn't unconscious, and as I was moving, she kicked me, crushing my jawbone. I stumbled and fell, but by the time I was able to get up and get to her, she had managed to shut the door behind her. With my jaw now broken, I have been unable to speak the word to open the door, and I am now stuck here. I tried to get the children to do it, but the boy is resilient and would rather die, while the girl just won't stop crying. At this point, I do not know how long I have been stuck in here with them, but I fear I am trapped forever. I have broken the wand again, in the hope it does some healing, but it won't. I've tried my own spells, but I'm unable to set the jaw, and so fear I'll be stuck like this for whatever time I have left. So with nothing left to do, I'm sitting here, thinking. I always wanted to be a good man. I healed the sick, I took the broken and fixed them. The only thing I couldn't fix was my own ego. My hubris led me here, thinking I could wield the power of the gods and fight back death itself. And now this cave is littered with the evidence of my arrogance. Numerous aberrations wander the caves. Instead of fixing them, I made them worse. Just like me, they are a warped version of their former selves. I am sorry to these children, and their families who will never know what happened to them. I am sorry to my friends who I left behind rather than fighting for my place. I am sorry to the gods for turning their beauty into cruelty. And I am sorry to you, whoever you are, for having to read the crimes of a madman. But my crimes may not be over. If I am to survive, I will need to eat, and the only food I see is gagged and bound in front of me. I hope you find me before I make any more bad choices. Dekvar Nevermike. Thanks for listening. Make sure you don't miss out on the circus's next crazy antics by hitting subscribe on your podcast app of choice. And in between episodes, you can always find us on social media by searching Dyson Desire on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. We're in our 3rd year now, and if you want to help us grow, you can do so in a number of ways. You can tell a friend, because word of mouth really helps us get our name out there, or you can review us on Apple or Podchaser to help with our visibility. Finally, you can donate to our Ko-fi page to help us take the show to the next level. All links can be found in this episode's description. And never forget, sometimes it is a dog licking a tree, yes?
It's a dark and stormy night, and you approach the bar. As the woman turns, she says, "Who are you, adventurers?"
My name's Margaret Battlehammer. Did you want to know more about me than that? I'm a dwarf. Can you tell by my height?
That's right, and I'm Jump Thunderden, everyone. Lead and rhythm lutist of the Justice Loving Friends.
I play drums.
And I'm the lead and rhythm lutist of the Justice Loving Friends.
Yeah, you said that already.
What?
It is my honour to be the near sole vocalist of the Justice Loving Friends. I am a grung, fled from my people due to their slaving nature. But my name is Black.
A beautiful story, Black.
And I'm Morik, the Forest Father. I play the pan flute.
Yep.
I'm tall and greeny
Morik just looking down at himself like, I guess I'm quite furry.
The woman looks at you, fully perplexed, and says, "That's great. I only needed your names for the coffee order."
Oh, just put it down under Quest Fantastic.
A D&D actual play podcast.
What a hot mess.